And good evening and welcome to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. My guest this evening is Rich Borer, President and CEO of Easter Seals of New England. Rich, welcome.
Nice to see you, Pete.
How are you? Good to see you again. What's new?
Thank you for having me back.
Thanks for coming down. It's been a while.
Well, one of the things that's new is we have a new name.
Right.
And I know, it rolls right off your tongue when you say Easter Seals Goodwill Industries, which is our former name. Mm-hmm. And our new name's a little bit more focused, but a little harder to say.
Okay.
We're, Goodwill Industries of Southern New England.
Aha.
And so, the Easter Seals brand was something that we had a long legacy with, but it was always very difficult for us when we would go out, particularly, at Rotary clubs and Chamber of Commerce luncheons, and even on programs like this, and have to explain why we were both Easter Seals and why we were both, a Goodwill. So my board of directors just said, we have a chain of stores. We have 15 stores throughout Connecticut and soon to be Rhode Island.
Okay.
So let's, have a name that identifies what we do and the geographic area in which we do it. Mm-hmm. And so that's why we came up with the name Goodwill Industries of Southern New England.
Okay.
And so my territory would cover from Milford to Rhode Island along the 95 corridor, right, and then up 91 to Hartford, and now into Rhode Island with the merger that just took place a couple of weeks ago.
How things going with the merger?
Great, yeah. It's been, they are a great bunch of people that have been running, the Goodwill of Rhode Island, mm-hmm, and they have an amazing history. The Goodwill of Rhode Island started out in 1865.
Wow.
And they were called the Irrepressible Society. Don't ask me to spell that. They were called the Irrepressible Society. And it was wives and children of major corporate owners, business people, yeah, outside of Providence that wanted to help returning Civil War veterans. And so they started the Irrepressible Society, which then grew into ultimately being Goodwill of Rhode Island, which is now part of us, which is Goodwill of Southern Rhode Island, Southern New England. So,
very nice.
Yeah, it's kind of very great history.
Yeah.
And we have a great history ourselves. I mean, we've been around since 1920. Okay. In New Haven, in the greater New Haven area. Okay. And so was the Easter Seals. So, we continue to provide the same level of high service that we do for people with disabilities and people that have barriers to work, and we've now just expanded the mission and gotten a little bit more focused.
Now tell us, what is the mission of the organization?
Yeah, so it's to help people with disabilities and barriers to work, okay, to have fulfilled lives and to have employment, mm-hmm, educational and recreational opportunities. So that's what we've been doing, back for 100 years.
Wow.
And we do it through the social enterprise of Goodwill Industries pretty much. We are I'll just use round numbers, but we're a $30 million organization. Okay. And $5 million of that does come from the state of Connecticut, and we're always, very cautious about, that funding source continuing. But the other 25 million of that 30 million all comes from the social enterprise of the donated goods, where, when Pete's done with that shirt and Rich, mm-hmm, is done with this jacket, we donate it and somebody else is wearing it to a job interview and we're helping them get work. So that is the engine that drives, our growth and our stability.
Cool. Very nice. So what else is going on with the organization?
Well, fundraising is always, a big thing for us, and mm-hmm, we have a golf tournament coming up. Now, usually we do have a golf tournament once a year, okay, but the committee decided, our development committee that does our marketing and our fundraising, mm-hmm, they decided to have another golf tournament in the fall. Okay. And so on November 2nd at Orange Hills Country Club, which is in Orange. Right. We have a 9-hole golf tournament that we're very excited about. And that's being done in concert with one of our largest fundraisers, and that's called the Celebrate campaign. Mm-hmm. And the Celebrate campaign, just the history of it, started like Jerry Lewis had the
NBA telethon. Sure.
Telethon. And then for Easter Seals, it was Pat Boone. Pat Boone used to do a telethon for Easter Seals, okay, and then Debbie Boone took it over for him. And so I guess for your older viewers, right, they'll know what I'm talking about. Maybe you might not. But Pat Boone was an entertainer. And but then when that became very difficult because of the cost of airtime,
Right.
we turned it into an annual appeal that we do different events throughout the year for our annual appeal. So that's coming up in November.
Nice.
And also what's new is, we're setting up now for Fantasy of Lights.
Yes, that's right.
And we're very excited about Fantasy of Lights. It's our 26th year there.
Very cool.
Yeah, so we're very excited about the growth of Fantasy of Lights, which is a drive-through seasonal for Christmas, light display that's in New Haven.
Yep.
It starts right around the week before Thanksgiving, and it goes throughout until New Year's. It costs $10 a car, and we usually get around 10,000 cars that go through that annually.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's become quite the family event for people, for generations. So it's exciting.
I was going to say, last time I had you on with me, we talked about your first golf tournament.
Right.
I think
Yeah.
I was going to say, I think that was the last time you and I saw each other.
I think we did.
How'd you guys do?
Yeah, we did really well.
Good.
That was a great golf tournament. It was in May,
Right.
and it was at the Farms. Was that the last time I was here, Pete?
I think so.
Oh, okay.
I think so.
Yeah, so it was in May. It was at the Farms Country Club, and that's the golf tournament that we do every year.
Right.
And that's an 18-hole. Most of the folks that participate, and we would encourage anybody, is welcome to. But they like to play golf. This coming up is a 9-hole kind of a thing where it's going to be just a lot of fun. And before people put their clubs away for the season, one last chance to get out and get frustrated.
Exactly. What during this time of the season? What other fundraisers do you guys do, and what else are you guys up to?
Yeah. So as far as fundraisers go, those are the two major events, and they take up all of our energy and all of our time.
Okay.
The Celebrate Appeal is from now until the end of the year, and while that's happening, Fantasy of Lights is being geared up, and it takes a tremendous amount of effort for us to set up for that display. There's 60 light displays, so we have the building trades are wonderful partners of ours.
Sure.
So we have the operating engineers that will go and actually erect these displays and put them up so they can withstand the wind coming off of New Haven Harbor.
Oh, yeah.
And then the electrical union goes and wires all of the displays and puts in the bulbs, and they do that with an internship program. The pipe fitters, the carpenters, all of the building trades participate. It's just a great community event. And then I think another huge aspect of that is every night a company or a family volunteer to host it.
Cool.
So it's like if a family wants to get into the holiday spirit, and many of them have been doing it for years, the family all gets together and they say, okay, the second week in December, we're all going to be at Fantasy of Lights, and so the family's there facilitating it and running it. And it's the only way that we could do it,
Right.
and to help us to fulfill our mission, and to help us to get money that will go back to programs is through this type of participation. So. Yeah, it's been all good, but another thing that we're really focused on, Pete, is the retail market. Which is, you might have saw in the news today that Sears filed for bankruptcy.
I saw that this morning.
When you think about that, and you're not old enough to remember the Sears catalog, but maybe other people in the room might remember the Sears catalog and all that.
Actually, I do.
Do you really?
I do.
Oh man, that was something. That was like a big thing,
Right.
when they came into your house and you got the Sears catalog. But brick and mortar retail has just been really, really struggling. You see it with all your major retailers. And so we've been pretty lucky actually, because when you're shopping for Goodwill or at Goodwill, it's more of a treasure hunt. We call it Goodwill hunting. You're going there and you're looking for something. You don't really walk into a Goodwill and saying, I'm going to go find a Lionel vintage train.
Yeah, right.
But while you're walking in there, you all of a sudden see a Lionel vintage train or something like that.
You never know what you're going to find.
Right, you never know what you're going to find. So that's part of the enticement of people to come into our stores. So we have that advantage over the more challenged brick and mortar retail operations. So we try to make it entertaining for our shoppers to come. And so we put on display all the different things that have been donated. Another interesting phenomenon that's going on is that a lot of millennials are not really interested in their grandmother's or their grandfather's stuff anymore, or their mom and dad's stuff anymore.
Right.
And so a lot of it just comes to Goodwill. And I think younger generations are probably, and this is just my opinion, probably doesn't mean anything, but more minimalists, and not looking for the old hutch or the other, things that you might see that when we were growing up, because our parents were part of the Depression and stuff, you didn't throw anything out.
Exactly.
You kept it, and it became a family heirloom.
Right.
But so, when you go treasure hunting now, because of all of these different things that are going on, there are a lot of really good finds for folks to come shopping at Goodwill.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you guys have a lot of stores that cover the local area.
We do, and every community has its own little niche, so we have the Clinton store, which is right down the street from where we're taping this.
Right.
We're looking to open up a store in Old Saybrook.
Okay.
We're probably going to be going into Rhode Island, in the southern part of Rhode Island, like Narragansett and that area. So we're really excited about the expansion and growing our mission. And it's not just because we're retailers, we're retailers with a mission. The people that work for us, the people that are part of our operations, everybody had a barrier to work, and everybody's out there now, making it happen and creating opportunity for other folks.
Now, as far as all your different locations, does merchandise and inventory change from location to location, or is everything pretty much?
No, every store is a different situation, and usually the product you see might be kind of germane to the neighborhood in which the store is located.
Right.
Because a lot of our donors live within a mile or two from the store.
Right.
So, Clinton, we get a lot of new products because of the malls that are in this area.
Yes, absolutely.
And we get a lot of, really higher end, maybe seasonal, because it's, near the water and summer type activity at the Clinton store, where Westville will get stuff that might come from Bethany or Prospect, Connecticut, that would go to the Westville store. So, yeah, it's all different. You might see like generational things, like things that might have been from the 70s or 80s, and the family, and mom and dad either went to Florida or in a nursing home or moved in with family, and people are now, dismantling the house and donating stuff. So you might see a lot of generational things that could come in. That might be a common theme that you would get. Let's see, for some reason, records, you see a lot of records, and records were coming in like crazy, but now records are going out like crazy. Like everybody wants that, Rolling Stones vintage, thing, or, whatever the album might be, but a lot of people are now going back to vinyl. So that makes it a little bit of a treasure hunt, because, records are expensive if you buy them online.
Yeah.
But if you go to a thrift store, they've been sitting there and just waiting for somebody to come and buy and play vinyl again.
Exactly. Would you mind sticking around for another segment?
I would love to.
We'll be right back.
I'll drop it off on my next grocery run.
A lot of people donate. I don't have to.
I'm too busy to donate.
I only have a few things.
I just really need some me time.
It's too cold outside.
I'll get around to it eventually.
I just don't have the time. I just can't get motivated.
But it's raining.
I can do it next week.
I'll donate at the end of the year.
We all have excuses, but your donations change lives.
And welcome back to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. Sitting here with Rich Borer from Goodwill Industries of Southern New England. Rich, welcome back. See, I caught myself.
You got it.
I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do it this segment. No.
Nice job.
Thanks, Rich. So let's talk about opening this segment. Let's talk about online sales compared to retail sales, as far as how that works.
Yeah. So Amazon and a lot of these other online retailers have really, and that's probably the reason for, Sears, as we talked about in the earlier segment, and other companies that have having financial struggle and don't get the traffic that they used to get in their stores, which then results in less sales. Because a lot of people, are shopping online through the convenience of that, So actually, the other day, my mom was going to go online and order from Stop and Shop, not for the Peapod, but for them to shop, and then she told me to just go and pick it up. So I mean, the technology is changing the way we shop and so kind of interesting. And so online sales has been kind of a struggle for us, only because we only have, when we get a donation, it's one of a kind, and then the next donation comes in is, something else, a different size, a different item, and so everything is different. You never get like two of the same thing.
Right, exactly.
Unless you got like a set of something, but
right.
And that would be sold as a set.
There you
but
go.
What we do is we take the things that most people like to buy online. So used books. Now, like if you were a collector of, let's say, as I mentioned earlier, trains, and there was a book on vintage trains, what's the odd that you went into the Clinton store and you saw that? But what we do is we put that online, and we sell that through Amazon, and we sell that through a separate company that we do our online sales. And it's called Ivy League Books is the name of the company that gets all of our books, and they sell them online. And we own the company, and that's what we do. And now that was just for books. And we would sell probably around $800,000 a year of used books. And our criteria is that we wanted to be the least expensive book, that would pop up on your search for the book. And we wanted to make sure that it was, timely and sent professionally. And so we've done all that, and we use clients, to help us to do that, who get paid, in return for their time, obviously. Right. And we also have a website that we now sell on called shopgoodwill.com. And shopgoodwill.com will be for unique higher end items that might be donated that we think can probably be better served to be sold online. A pair of women's shoes from a great manufacturer, a certain size or whatever. There's probably more eyeballs on that item if we put it online. So these type of things. We don't put everything online because we still want to have treasures for when people come.
Exactly.
But unique kind of things. For some reason, Legos are a big collectible.
Really?
And so, we take our Legos and we bulk them up and we'll sell them online. What else is jewelry seems to sell online. And we're a little nervous, that our staff might not know how to identify, real silver, real gold. Right. And we want to be good stewards of the donation, not to maximize the sale, but just to get a reasonable price for the item and still be a great deal. So jewelry would then be centrally processed, and then people would look for that expensive item and then put it online. So those are the things that we've been doing online, and we've had a lot of really good success with it. Cool. We're really excited about expanding that program. It puts a lot of people to work. A lot of the Goodwills that do, let's say, between $500 and $1 million worth of our online sales, they'll have between 50 and 100 people, that are working and processing. And our mission, is not to sell something, but our mission is to put people to work, and then use the proceeds to further advance, our mission. So, and we want to be good stewards of the donations. So, if any of your, viewers are interested, just Google shopgoodwill.com and put in an item that you think you might be interested in. Musical instruments seem to be really good. Shop Goodwill is a good venue for that.
Really?
I play guitar, so I'm always kind of looking for, different kind of vintage guitars that are out there. And of course, I'll check eBay every once in a while when I can. But I'll also check, shopgoodwill.com, and there's really unique stuff. Or let's say if somebody has a dining room set and a certain piece of china or something broke, but it was vintage, you can actually take that and then go online to see if you can replace the piece that you had broken. So it's just kind of an interesting way of being good stewards with the donation, and to make sure that somebody gets a good deal on it.
Cool, very nice. Now, as far as the state of retail, let's talk about the state of retail as far as where it's going and.
Yeah, so we think we have a pretty good niche. I mean, obviously, retailers are struggling, and what that has done, at least for us, is with all of the space now that's prime retail space,
Right.
where Toys R Us was, some of these big pharmacy, CVS's and things like that.
Yes.
Not in particular CVS, but
Right.
these pharmacies. A lot of these spaces are beautiful spaces that are on a main street, at a traffic light, on a corner. They have parking spaces. And something that we could never have imagined to have rented, now because the rents have come down because there's less competition for the space and less retailers out there, it's a little bit more affordable for us. So instead of spending $20 a square foot for some premium location, which means we got to raise the prices of things in order to pay for at least the rent, right? And rent and labor costs are the most expensive things that we have. We can now get into prime retail locations at a greatly reduced price. So I guess if there's any silver lining in what's going on, that's one of them. But we're not going to put all of our eggs in any particular basket, particularly with brick and mortar retail. We're going to be, very cautious about making sure, that everybody gets a good experience, that we have good product, and that it's priced right. But also, we're also going to have an online presence too. And I think the future of retail is going to be retailers that not only have stores, but also have a retail presence too. Kind of like Apple and all these other stores where you can go to the Apple store, but you can also buy your Apple product online.
Exactly. What typically do the Goodwill stores carry as far as merchandise? Is it, you guys don't carry electronics, but you probably carry like housewares?
We get a lot of houseware, so that's a really good question. 60% of our floor would be textiles. Okay. And probably a large portion of that 60% would be women's textiles. So, it would be shirts and blouses, dresses, other seasonal wear and stuff like that. And then probably 15% would be men's clothing. And then, we have a small percentage that would be for shoes, but shoes is a big market for us. And then the rest of it would be housewares and furniture. Okay. And housewares would include electronics, as you just mentioned. Right. One of the things that we get donated all the time that we really have no outlet for are used printers. Okay. For some reason, you get a great deal on the printer, but you can't buy the ink, or you can't find the ink.
Exactly.
So printers take up a lot of our space. Right. And we don't sell anything with a hard drive in it because we don't want to violate anybody's personal information. Right. And what we'll do is we have a contract with Dell, and Dell then recycles all of that product. Cool. So anything with a hard drive, unless it's something that was new and not used, then we would sell that. Nice. And then televisions are also a challenge for us because a lot of the older, bigger TV sets that you ride around in neighborhoods and people put on the curb and say for free. Exactly. They have been identified as like hazardous waste, and so, it's very difficult. And we, put TVs in the store for $5 and they take up a lot of space. But the flat screen TVs, they do sell. Yeah. And the other TVs that do have a really good market is anything where people can hook up their video games into the back of the TVs. Oh, yeah. Then those also have a pretty good market. Yeah. But electronics, other things that we, anything electrical, we test and we put it out. And if it, let's say, doesn't work, or a lamp is broken, we don't just throw it away. We strip the copper, we strip the metal, we strip the plastic, and everything gets separated, and we have a market for all of that. We throw out very little, I should mention. Okay. Everything, if it's something metal, a weightlifting thing or something like that, that nobody bought at the store and it's just kind of sitting there now, it would go into the scrap metal bin, and then we get, paid for the scrap metal. Exactly. Cardboard gets crunched, and we have a buyer, a pulp paper company that buys all of our scrap paper and our scrap cardboard. So by the time we get done separating everything that was donated, we pretty much have very little waste, which I think is really a good thing. So, we eliminate stuff that's going to the landfill, so we save it from that and kind of save the planet kind of stuff, but also create jobs for people, and that's what it's all about.
Speaking of jobs and creating things and other fun things that you guys do, I just had something pop into my mind, and assuming you guys do these again this year. Do you guys do the coat drive still?
We do. I'm glad you mentioned that.
I'm
Yeah.
thinking since the last time we were
So,
together, I'm like,
That's one of the things that, I think, that people aren't aware of that we do. That if somebody is in
let's talk about
crisis, and if somebody had a fire,
Right.
and so like we partner with the Red Cross, where if the Red Cross goes to a scene and somebody's now out of their home and they're in a hotel for 3 or 4 days while they're trying to get resituated,
Right.
and then they need to, rebuild. We give certificates and vouchers for the Red Cross to give them, so people can shop and get what they want for nothing, to get that. And as you mentioned, we do a coat giveaway. And so throughout the year, we'll save a lot of the coats, and of course we sell coats and stuff like that. But before we take any coat to salvage or any coat that would go into the textile market and not be sold, we save it. And then in the winter, anybody that needs a coat, they're welcome to choose between those coats. And so what we do in New Haven, and we work with the New Haven Fire Union, and it's usually the first Sunday in December, and it's at Hill House High School, the field house. We go there with 3 tractor trailer full of coats, and my staff takes the Sunday off. They all volunteer. We hang up all the coats, and then when the Firebirds are there with their little holiday festivities, if anybody was to walk in and needed a coat
There you go.
for them or their family, they're free to take it.
Rich Burr from Easter Seals, I want to thank you for coming
Thank you.
down. Hopefully we'll see you soon.
I enjoy so much being on your show, and thank you for having me.
Not a problem. We'll see you soon. On behalf of Rich Burr, I'm Pete Mezzetti. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.